Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. If you're new here, hi, my name is Madison. I talk about everything spiritual and metaphysical on my channel. And today we are talking about remote viewing and astral travel. And so, normally topics like this would just go into my 5D membership, but I wanted to show you guys a little tease of some of the more involved topics that we talk about on my 5D membership. So this week the topic is remote viewing and astro travel. So if you've never heard of my 5D membership, it is a kind of like a library of different classes, everything from learning how to access your Akashic record, connecting with your higher self, doing a past life regression, and then there's new channeled messages or activations that come every single week on Mondays. So normally I do YouTube videos Tuesday, Thursday, but you guys are getting an extra one this week because you're actually getting the 5D activation teaching as well. So, remote viewing and astral travel, I wanted to start by telling you guys how I stumbled upon this. So, first of all, I was doing remote viewing and a little bit of astral traveling whenever I was in the Akashic Records. And so, working in the Akashic Records, it's sort of like tapping into a dimension of consciousness or a dimension where you're able to go in and connect with a spirit guide and ask for information like your soul's purpose, to be shown your past lives, and just being able to kind of access the Akashic Records is a form of astro travel. And the reason being, whenever we're talking about remote viewing, we are talking about the ability to separate our consciousness from our body, allow our consciousness to kind of disconnect from the body, normally through a deep state of meditation. And then the consciousness can travel different places. And it's almost like we have this little astral body and it's like bopping around different places on the planet. And with astro travel, you're actually able to access things like other dimensions. And so the Akashic Records definitely exists in another dimension. So that's an example of taking your astral body, traveling to another dimension to be able to get knowledge or resources. Remote viewing, on the other hand, would be same concept. You're separating your consciousness from your body through a deep state of meditation. And then you're going to be able to hop to different places around the planet, physical places. So, for example, you could go remote view. A really popular one is military bases. People love to remote view military bases, try to figure out what's going on behind the scenes. Other things that people like to remote view can just be the people around them and kind of getting that validation at first. Remote viewing people hey, does, your stuff look like this? Or are you in this room? Starting to kind of build that confidence. But the other thing is that a lot of us already have the ability to do this or are already doing this in meditation, and we don't really realize what it is or what we're doing. So basically, I went through like all of the frequently asked questions around remote viewing and astro travel. I'm going to go through those and then I'm going to tell you guys about my experience with remote viewing and astro traveling. The story about the Akashic Records is kind of how I got into it and how I realized I could do this. But then I do have a bunch of other experiences once I realized I can do this and started doing it intentionally. Okay, so remote viewing and astro travel are both centered around being in deep meditation. And so for me personally, whenever I like to astro travel, not all the time, but a lot of times I'll put on music in the background. And I love a 1111 hertz because the different hertzes actually help you to connect to the other dimensions or kind of thin the veil, so to speak. So astro travel is being able to separate your consciousness from your body through meditation, and your consciousness can go to other dimensions, other planets, and that's what astro travel is. It's you're not in the physical 3D world, you're in like the astral or the quantum world. The biggest difference between that and remote viewing starts out the same, where you're breaking apart the consciousness from the body, just kind of separating, and then the consciousness can go wherever it wants. And remote viewing is more going to be like on planet, you're going to visit to remote view physical 3D things. Pyramids of Giza are a big thing people have been trying to remote view as well. So there's all of these areas that are physical that people want to see what's really going on there. And so that's really when remote viewing comes in versus astro travel. So a big question is, can anyone learn this? And I want to say yes and no, because can anyone access the abilities to do this? Yes. Can everybody clear the limiting beliefs and spiritual blocks that they need to be able to access this information? I don't know that they will in this lifetime. So I think if you're open to clearing your spiritual blocks, if you are open to ascending spiritually, and you're doing this with like good intention and open mind, absolutely you can learn how to remove you. But a lot of times, I kind of hear like the skeptical side that comes from a place of like, well, I don't believe in that, so I couldn't do it. And if you don't believe in it, you're probably not going to be able to do it. That's just kind of how the quantum world works, is like if you have a limiting belief that says, I can't do that, your subconscious believes I can't do that, so your subconscious wouldn't even know how to try. So yes and no. So biggest thing is if you have blockages to remove, I recommend you do probably some third eye Reiki on that. Whenever I do my Akashic Records classes, when I do them in person, whenever people are going into their Akashic Records for the first time, I do third eye Reiki, and I'll kind of pull out any limiting beliefs or blocks that might be keeping them from having like the deepest experience that they could for their highest good. So let's talk about clear abilities. We all have the ability to connect with our extrasensory abilities. We have clairvoyance, which is the ability to see in these channeled states. We have clairaudience, which is the ability to hear, normally it's telepathically, in these channeled states. We have the ability to sort of just feel and know. Like I've had an experience one time where I went into the Akashic Records and I asked something, and it was almost like I didn't get like a dialogue answer response. It was almost like I felt like I got like downloaded information into my brain and then I just knew. I don't know how else to describe it, like other than that. But that's, another gift. That's the only time it's ever happened to me, but that's how a lot of people have their experience, is they go in and now they just know things they didn't know before. Maybe they didn't have a full visual experience. There's no right or wrong. It's just how it shows up for different people based on what your spiritual gifts are. Um, Protection is another thing. So whenever I do this, I always use what I like to refer to as like my invisibility cloak. So before I'm going to remote view astro travel, I will call in my guides. I'll ask them to put a cloak of protection over me, and I visualize myself putting on like a Harry Potter invisibility cloak, where now nobody can see where my astral body is going. So like if I'm going to, let's say, military bases are a great example. If you were to go to try to view one, a lot of times they have their own remote viewers that are trying to make sure that nobody's remote viewing in. And so the cloak of protection can help them not to be able to kind of like follow back to you or see you or whatever, because if you're remote viewing in the 3D, people can't see you, but if you're remote viewing and there's other remote viewers, they can see you, if that makes sense. So always bring your guides in, always ask for protection. Invisibility cloak is the easiest way that I like to think of it. And I think that that also makes it more of a safe experience. So another question, can I do this in my dreams without realizing? You absolutely can. I have a customer of mine who, she just found out she's been doing this in her dreams for a long time, and she's basically been in these astral battles at night. And so basically during the day she's here and she's a light worker on earth, and at night her soul's partaking in astral battles, trying to defend the light. So you can absolutely do this in your dreams without realizing for probably a long time before you realize or understand what's really going on. Could I have a third eye block? Yes. I channeled 3 main reasons people have third eye blocks that prevent them from being able to remote view or astro travel. First one, self-doubt. Some people just believe like, oh yeah, they can do it, but I can't. Or they have special gifts, I don't. Next thing, past lives. If you have had a past life where you were persecuted for your gifts, you could very well have a third eye block where you just don't feel safe accessing those gifts, because why would you? You never felt safe being able to access them in past lives. Last one is fear of other people's opinions. A lot of people want to delve into things more, but if it's outside of what their friend group's interests are, they're like, I don't know, people might think I'm whatever, you know? So, main reasons people have third eye blocks: self doubt, past lives, fear of other people's opinions. So, if any of those resonate with you, you could definitely do some journaling, some meditation, some Reiki, whatever feels good for you to kind of work through those blocks. Okay, so my experience, Akashic Records, of course. So being able to go into the Akashic Library. So for me, I'm clairvoyant. So it's very much a visual experience. I'm in my state of meditation. I say my Akashic prayer. And then my astral body is now in the Akashic Records, which is this giant library that has all these different rooms. And I go into this room. That's my Akashic room. And there is a guide there that is essentially working with me to help answer my questions or whatever that looks like. But sometimes this guide will take me places to show me different things. So, one time that was really, really cool is she took me actually to see my home planet. I don't know why I did this, but my home planet. And so, a lot of people right now are kind of on this topic of, hey, I don't feel like I'm from here. I feel like I had lives before Earth. And from what I've channeled, a lot of us have. And so I was in the Akashic Records, like, hey, where did I come from? Like, did I originate on Earth? If I didn't, where did I come from? And it was very much like she took me out of the dimension of the Akashic Records and took me to the planet that I came from. And that was such a crazy experience because I didn't even know that that's a thing you could do. I didn't know you could leave the Akashic Records and go and see other places. I also didn't know you could travel to other planets. I knew you could travel to like the moon or, stuff like that. I didn't realize you could travel to other planets. So that was actually super crazy. And then I was like, wait, can you use this skill to go anywhere? And it was very clear, like, yeah, if you have the right intentions and the right spirit guides helping, you can use this, gift to, go anywhere, Earth side, other planets, wherever, as long as you know where you're going and you have the intention. So, very much what I've learned from this is that it takes practice, and sometimes your answers show up in real life. So, for example, I've asked the Akashic Records things or wanted answers or clarity, and then maybe felt like I didn't get a clear answer, and then the answer showed up in everyday life. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like the answer appeared for me, and I didn't felt like I got it in meditation. It actually appeared in my everyday life. So, always be open to how the messages come through. So, I want to tell you guys a little bit about um, when you start versus once you've been doing it. So, whenever I first started doing this, it would take me sometimes 30 minutes of just like meditation, saying the prayer, trying to quiet my mind before I could actually feel like I was in the records and making progress. Now, I can probably get in for somebody else to do a reading in like couple minutes, So it gets so much easier with time, but don't get discouraged if you go in and it takes a lot of time and energy. It's just like anything, it's a muscle. The more you focus on doing this sort of spiritual work and having these out of body experiences, the easier it becomes. The other thing is when you first start doing this work, it can be really energetically draining. You can feel like you need to come back into the body and ground or just not do anything. Like for me, for example, I am recording this video, then I have about a 2 hour break, then I have to go do a reading. And I know after I get done with that reading, like I'm going to be done for the day. I did 2 readings this morning, have this reading this afternoon, recording this video, and like that energetically is going to be, all I'm probably able to do doing all of this travel to go into other people's Akashic records. So, let's talk about my home planet. So, I was wondering when I should share this because this experience happened a while ago, but I just haven't maybe had the courage to say, like, I had this crazy experience. But here we are, 2026, so we're being unapologetic. So, I asked about where my home planet was, and I went to this place that it was almost like I was in the Akashic Records and it almost felt like I got sucked out of the Akashic Records and then almost like sucked into this like almost like portal that took me to another no, not another dimension, another universe. Like it was very clear, like I was like, is this in our like universe or solar system? And my guide was like, no, this is a completely separate universe. So my soul originated at this planet that is not even in our solar system. And that's why a lot of us are struggling to just adjust to being human for whatever reason, as a lot of us truly are not from here. So this planet, I was basically shown it was like a crystal land. Like everything is built and harnessed with crystal energy, meaning like if you had a house, your house is built out of crystals. You don't have electricity, the things like that that you would need are all powered by crystalline energy. I have no idea how it works. I haven't channeled that much in to see like the logistics and all of that, but I was like mind blown because the place that I went was all pastel colors of crystals mostly, and it was, oh my gosh, it was so cool. And it makes so much sense because now I use and work with crystals all the time. I mean, I've got my crystals, my crystal, I even got one in my pocket. Pretty much always have one somewhere like that. But it makes so much sense because now I resonate so much with working with crystals, and then I saw that and I was like, obviously, so doing work like this I love because it helps you to connect the dots as well. So another thing that I'll do with my this is more remote viewing, is I will remote view over to my mom's at night and just put like a little cloak of protection over her house and like the people inside of it. So you can use these abilities for good for sure, and definitely, like I mentioned, as a way to try to send that love and protection to the other people around you as well. So let me know if you guys liked this and if you guys want a class on remote viewing or astro travel, because I think a lot of you, like I said, if you've taken my Akashic Records class, you're probably already doing this or already have this ability. You just don't really know how to channel it, which is where I was. So if you guys do want a class, I'll put together an astro travel, remote viewing, workshop, class, course, something. If that's something that you guys want to learn about, just drop it in the comments if you want to hear more. And I want to talk about ways to work with me. If you want to join the 5D membership, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can join through my website. You can try a week for free. Make sure it's, aligned for you, and you get a week free before you get charged. You can also book a one-on-one reading with me. So if you want to have me access your Akashic Record, your soul purpose, your past lives, I can go in and do that for you. Or if you want to learn how to access your own Akashic Record, I can teach you how to access your own Akashic Record as well. So if any of that aligns with you, just check my website linked in the show notes and linked in my bio. Last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is I am planning to do a retreat to Egypt sometime later in 2026, probably towards the end of the year. So nothing planned yet, just kind of wanted to tease that in case that's something that you're immediately like, okay, I don't know why, but like intuitively I know I have to go, just so you guys can maybe have some time to start preparing and planning if you don't have a passport, whatever that looks like. So I'll see you guys in the next episode, and as always,